Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, JamesBFauntleroy. So good to see all of you here on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon in November. Well, we got another good show for you guys. The Jaybefaunt channel is also part of Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you can find me there on Thursdays for the Sabby and JB show, and then Sundays for the JB show, and here every single Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just to let you guys know, if you guys would like to, please go ahead and give a like, share, and subscribe. This also helps us out so that we can be able to reach more people. So we appreciate it very much from all of you. Yes, thank you so very much. Also, just to let you guys know, I also have a Substack at Jaybefaunt.substack.com. This gives you email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles, so you guys have that there. So you guys can read, watch, and see basically what I have in store for you guys as well. Just to also let you guys know, did you guys know that you can also ask me questions? This is actually something that is brand new. And so because I am demonetized, if you guys would like to, you guys can actually ask me questions and I can give you video responses too. And it's on a platform called Q Bounty. And so if you guys would like to, I also have it linked in the description below. You guys can actually ask me questions and I give it's like basically like super chats, but personalized. And so if you guys would like to, you guys can actually get answered questions like the one I answered earlier today about Bernie Sanders maybe starting his own political party. I actually did that earlier, and then I uploaded it to YouTube as well. So if you guys would like to, you guys get that there too. So that's another perk about following me too. So with that being said, good to see all of you here. A blanket hello to everybody that's watching in the audience. I will get to you guys in a little bit, but I do have a guest today. What are we talking about today? Well, we got one of the things we're going to be talking about later is an airport workers strike. This is going to be a interesting story to go through. One of the reasons why is because this involves one of the biggest travel days of the year. And we're going to be getting into that because essentially that biggest travel day of the year is between today and tomorrow. But first, we're going to be talking about the consultant class, the ones who are grabbing all the money. And also, I would like to get his evolution into this space as well. I'll be talking to Shaquille Sunflower. AfriKeem is joining me. So good to have you with us. Nice to see you here.
Pleasure to be here, brother. Thank you for inviting me again. Honored to be here amongst you and the audience.
Yep. Thank you so very much. You know, we actually have met on RBN, and that was a really great conversation that we had. But one of the things I wanted to do was bring you on to my channel to actually start off with your origin story, your hero origin story, as it were. You know, what brought you into the activist and organizer space, and, you know, how did that come about?
It's just something that I've always been around without actually being officially part of any organization. Like, it took me a while before I decided on All African People's Revolutionary Party, and just looking at different options that were available to me, even going back to when I lived in New York, because I'm originally from Queens, from Woodside Houses, and I always just had community around. My mother was one of the ones that showed me the importance of communal building and just the strength behind it. And just being able to meet people where they are, irrespective of race, class, gender, so on and so forth. So I ended up learning a lot through her. You know, so my evolution, I think I could say I was kind of born into it because of the way that my mom was. My mom was Pan-African without having articulated. She just went out and she did. So she was always in the community. There were always people where if somebody needed a place to stay, somebody needed some food because they were down on their luck, somebody needed anything, they can always come over to the house. Mm-hmm. And through that, you know, a lot of what was nurtured or what was put into me was just this sense of community, this sense of responsibility. So I've always been that way. I mean, I've been with the All African People's Revolutionary Party for a little bit over a year, but I did a ridiculous amount of research before deciding on it, because not all organizations are amazing organizations. And what really got me into it, part of what sparked it, was just I was listening and watching and reading Kwame Ture. Kwame Ture, for a number of years, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, for a number of years, was a member of the All African People's Revolutionary Party, central figure in the party. Even though the party's line is Kwame is built by Kwame Nkrumah and Mikhail Cabral and Sekou Touré. But he was taught directly by these folks, particularly when he migrated from the U.S. to Guinea-Bissau to spend the last 30 or 40 years of his life.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for that. I mean, because and just a question about the All African People's Social Party. Is there any overlap between you guys and the African People's Socialist Party, that is chaired by Omali Yeshitela? Is there any overlap that you guys have with them as
There's
well?
definitely coalition, particularly between us, Omali Yeshitela, the Sahel states, or the AES rather. So there's definitely communal building between these revolutionary parties and factions.
Yeah. I love the fact that this is a full circle moment for me, because I've actually had Omali Yeshitela on here before. And so now I get to talk to you. So it's like a really cool full circle moment that I actually get to have now. I have you and then I had him. And so, and what are your thoughts about, especially about the subsequent FBI raid that happened with, the Uhuru 3, as well as, the trial that was set? I was able to go to one of the days here in Tampa, in Florida.
I think that these are the most ridiculous charges. Once again, without actual substantive evidence, there's this frame up of espionage, which I believe is one of the charges that was levied against Baba Omali Yeshitela and All African People Socialist and the African People Socialist Party. It's like they're looking for it, grasping at straws, looking for any and everything without substantive evidence. I think the thing that frustrates me the most is that as African people navigating in the space, we get brought up on Fed charges and criminalized for what they think we did versus what they actually have proof of.
Yeah.
And, you got these white militias out here and they're like, oh, we know who the actors are, but ain't nobody going to jail. Ain't nobody. Like, has anybody gone to jail from January 6th? Has anybody's home been raided? I mean, people have gone to jail, and it's the optics of it. But let's be honest, that in itself, insurrection is cause for concern. Like, it's the most ridiculous thing ever. But yeah, I think that it's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to put into words, because I think that we are all subject to it. Even if we look at not just Baba Omali Yeshitela, but we look at the political prisoners that we have within the system that we live in, without them having actual evidence that these people did what they say they do. Even if I look at, like, I'm out here in Arizona, I'm in Phoenix, man, I look at like Tucson. Jamil El-Amin's been there for over 20 years. Jamil El-Amin alleged crime was in Georgia. How do you extradite somebody all the way across the country and pull them away from their family, away from their loved ones, without substantive evidence? And it happens repeatedly. Historically, this has been things that the government has done, and what they'll do is it's like a black scare. We get lumped in, and it becomes a thing of, okay, well, they're communists or they're doing this, and they're terrorists, without people actually even looking into the case, without people questioning what these phrases mean. Yeah. The biggest issue that we're faced with is that people live in such an anti-intellectual society, and we live under the regime of authoritarianism, to where it's like you can't even question what the hell these people are being brought up on charges for.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that you just reminded me of, the move bombing that happened in 1985.
In Philly.
Yeah, and you know what? I was less than 1 year old across the bridge in Camden, New Jersey when it happened. And, I talked to, some relatives about it, some older relatives about it, and they said they remember it like it was yesterday. That was crazy. The United States literally bombed a neighborhood of its own citizens in order to get them out. It's wicked. And the thing is like everybody goes, well, the government would never do that. And it's like, especially those of us who are Black people, we know that they have and they will continue to do that. And it strikes me as interesting how Donald Trump got a significant, amount more of Black people to vote. It was probably between 17 and 18%, which, in retrospect, it doesn't seem like that much. But for Republicans to get that much more, it's a lot. Can you quantify for people how Donald Trump will be similar to Joe Biden as far as the squashing of dissent from groups like ours, groups like yours, groups like the Uhuru movement, and many others across the nation?
Honestly, I think that, and Trump is already, here's the part where I'm like, all right, I kind of oftentimes use the Malcolm X analogy where he's talking about the wolf versus the fox, the liberal more so being the fox, which would be Biden, which would be Kamala Harris, which would be anybody that is into this neoliberalism BS. Trump is definitely, he's cause for concern, but the beauty in it, and I say that loosely, the beauty in it is that you already know how he's coming. You already know where he stands. Biden and Kamala were very much willing to do the same thing that he's doing. They've had zero problem with saying, even taking it away from this point at the moment, as far as like revolutionary factions and groups. Look at how frequently she stated, it was almost every other sentence while she was campaigning, that Israel has the right to defend itself. That is the most absurd thing I've ever heard, because everybody is getting this misrepresentation of the history as if this shit started. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I cuss on her?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. Can I cuss on her?
You can.
Yeah, my fault. I mean it, but everybody's kind of getting this as if it started on October 7th, which is the ahistorical perspective. Notice there's no talk about Balfour Declaration. There's no talk of mandate for Palestine. There's no talk of 1940, I think it's 46 or 47. I might be misremembering right now the actual Nakba. What happened prior to the existence of Hamas? So it's like you get this distorted view of the history from liberals, and is equally, if not more so, dangerous than that of the Republicans that are there. I honestly and sincerely hope that with Trump getting ready to pull the nonsense that he's attempting to, or that he's claiming he's going to pull with tariffs and with suppression of revolutionary factions, that people wake up and actually study and actually look at these things and ask, why the hell are we here? Why?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And before we get into the main crux of the conversation regarding Kamala Harris, I would say that, and you probably agree with me, is that Trump is not an aberration. Trump is a feature of the system, not a bug. And because Trump is really the full embodiment of what the United States is. And when people see the full embodiment of what it is, and they see how horrible and disgusting and ugly it is, when you look at Trump, you're seeing what Black people have been seeing for 400 years. When you look at Trump, you're seeing what the Native Americans have been seeing for 400 years. You're now seeing what we're seeing. White people are seeing what we're seeing, and they can't stand it. And we're like, now you get it.
Trump is, and I'm just in response to that, Trump is kind of like white supremacist gumbo. And what I mean by that is you would take George Wallace, you would take Nixon, you would take both Bushes, you would take Ronald Reagan. This is not something that is new. It's not brand new stuff. This is stuff that's been remixed over the course of time. Even the talking points with this whole BS about make America great again, this is Reaganism. I was born during, you as well, I believe, born during the Reagan era.
Yeah.
I was born in 1986. In 1986, one of the things that fascinates me the most is like words that were out there and put in a dictionary. crack baby, crackhead, so on and so forth. But these are things that we all know were brought in by the government, particularly during the Reagan era. Yes. And then who got the rough end of it was Black folks and communities like mine. Like I said, I grew up in the projects. I'm a project baby, and I'm proud of that. But you still see the remnants of that all the way from late 80s, early 90s to mid 90s, so on and so forth. And by the time you even get to the early 90s and you're getting out of Reagan and into Bush 1, and then Bush 1, you get a break, but not really, because you got Clinton, and then you got mass incarceration. And then outside of that, then you get Bush 2. So Trump has been here before. Trumpism, which they want to be like this new phenomenon, it's not. It's not something that hasn't been seen. It's not something that's not already in the history books. Yeah. Even when you talk about the suppression of revolutionary factions, when you talk about, looking at going even back to J. Edgar Hoover, you could take a page out of that as well, with the way that the government itself gets run now. Trump is not new. It's history kind of repeating itself in regard to that particular aspect of it. Now, we're going to be here for at least 4 years, possibly more under this dictatorship. But would it have been any better under liberalism? And I don't think so.
Well, you definitely have a point there. In George Jackson's book, he was actually speaking about how fascism has been here really since its outset of this country. If there's ever a argument that fascism has been here for decades, George Jackson pretty much laid it out in his book, Blood in My Eyes. So I would hardly suggest that anybody who is revolutionary minded, even if you're not revolutionary minded, read that book and see exactly his perspective, especially somebody that's, been a victim of the carceral system with, ties to revolutionary roots. So I would definitely, suggest anybody to read that. And so one of the things I'm sorry.
My bad. I didn't mean to interject.
No, please go ahead.
I was saying, even before George Jackson, we can look to Du Bois. We can look to Paul Robeson. We can look to things that they were faced with, particularly in Du Bois's piece, Why I Will Not Vote. And he's talking about how the two major parties themselves, you've got this over here, which you're conditioning people to believe you've only got these two options. That's it. There's no more, as opposed to exercising your actual democratic right to choose a government that's for the people, by the people, of the people. In regard to that particular system itself, fascism, it's even going back to Comrade George Jackson, rest his soul. He's like, you only getting these two choices. It's like, to summarize pretty much, it's like asking somebody which way they'd prefer to die. And this is something that's written about in Blood in My Eye, which I've read ad nauseum at this particular point. Also Soledad Brother, because I think that's important because of the development of his political consciousness is why I would tell people to also go and read that book as well. But he's not wrong. And Comrade George Jackson pretty much being autodidactic, he's not wrong in what he's stating, because look at what we have now. People have already met with fascism. It's just the style in which it's being delivered. Because listen to the words that Kamala is saying. And the only thing that they have for Black people that white supremacists feel is spoken out of turn, and it's been like this since I've been alive, since before I've been alive, since before you've been alive, is to red bait them and say that this person is communist. Hell, I wish Kamala had some Marxism in her or some communist theory. We'd be a lot further along at that point. Shit, I'd be the first one to vote for if that were true. But the reality of it is this. She did nothing but try to vibe out. She did nothing but try to talk about how she's not Trump, all while acting just as, if not more conservative than he was.
And so that actually brings me into what we wanted to talk about in regards to Trump, his win, and the post-mortem breakdown that was actually discussed. And first of all, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, did you expect Trump to win?
Yes.
And if you weren't, were you surprised?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised for a number of reasons. One of the biggest reasons being she didn't run a great campaign. You roll a policy out at the very last moment, which I believe you and I had conversation about this previously. Look at how long she took to roll out an actual policy. The whole time was, I'm not Donald Trump, but here's this party. Here's something you could jam out to. All right. You keep talking about middle-class upbringing. Guess who's looking at you say this and not hearing them be brought up? Poor working class people. At what point did you decide to get to these folks?
Yeah, because I would be honest with you, they didn't knock on my door and I live in the hood. They didn't come here. So yeah, I didn't get a chance to hear it from any of them. But that's great, because one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to get into this post-mortem that was talked about between Joy Reid and really Touré. I wanted to get into that, and I shared that video clip with you last night. So I wanted to get into that. Let me make sure I get to my right spot here. And then, because Touré really talks about the consultant class and I want to get into that. Okay, so let me share my screen really quick. And please feel free to ask me to pause if you want to make a point, because I won't be able to see you, but do not be shy about interjecting. So we'll get into it.
Rural surge. There were older voters who came out as well.
Touré, you've done some reporting on kind of the internal dynamics of the Harris campaign, and you want to talk about something that I really want to get into, and that is the consultants. Talk about the consultant factor in this election.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why Kamala lost. One of them, that when I spoke to elite Democratic people, and they kept bringing up the name Jen O'Malley Dillon. Jen was the campaign chair for Kamala Harris, and she had been hired to do that for Biden. So this is a Biden person, a Biden loyalist, who in 2023 was leaking to media that Kamala should be replaced on the ticket, right? This is the reporting that I have on my Substack. So this is the person you have to go to battle with, who a year earlier was whispering to reporters saying, maybe you should be replaced. And part of the thing with Jen, too, when you talk about the consulting class, that she has an ad buying company. So when she's advising the candidate saying you should buy ads, that is personally enriching to her. Right now, that doesn't mean that she's doing anything nefarious, right? She seems to have done her job as best as she could. But when a hammer sees everything as a nail, and when you personally are enriched by ad buys, then you're going to recommend that to the candidate, as opposed to Donald Trump got a lot out of being on podcasts, right?
So let's stop there pretty quick for a second. Let me ask you this. Does that sound like almost like a sabotage to you in a way? Because it sounds almost like, not necessarily sabotage, but it was like taking advantage of the situation without trying to push for a more favorable outcome. Because it really is all about the money. It really wasn't about actually getting anybody who they found worthy to be elected.
It's sabotage, but it's also predictable, because it's not like Kamala wasn't at odds with Joe Biden when she was running a campaign without having been picked to be his VP. So them same people that wasn't rocking with you before are there now. You kind of already, you got to be, a complete fool to not know what you walking into at that particular point. And then to say I wouldn't do anything, or to repeatedly state how she wouldn't do anything differently than what he's done. It's one thing to be wrong. It's another thing to grossly miscalculate how tight-knit white supremacy is, irrespective of whether it is the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. They get to be white at the end of the day. You, for all intents and purposes, your black ass is going to be the sacrificial lamb in all of this. And then they get to look and be like, well, we tried. The hell y'all did? Roll out the policy at the last minute. She wasn't really talking about anything that could connect to the people on the ground. And I mean, and Joy Reid, I have my own personal gripe. I believe that Joy Reid, I believe that Touré, I believe that a lot of these journalists are extremely dangerous in the utilization of their platform, because you're sitting up there deliberately lying about how these things came to be or how these things should work. If we can deduce that the black woman is the most disrespected woman, as per Malcolm X, why would you, as a black woman, think that these white folks had your best interests at heart, particularly ones that you were already kind of beefing with and griping with? You'd be like, all right, cool, you know, we'll let that pass. They ain't forget about that. They not letting it slide, and they're gonna be like, all right, cool. We tried. Oh, we didn't really want her. She wasn't qualified. She wasn't this. She wasn't that. And now, you know, off topic real quick, it's just a matter of her talking about how she is, or at least rumored reports that she's going to do this again in 2028. How many times you going to keep getting your ass beat by the same system?
I'm sorry, but Kamala's acting like a Myron Gaines. I mean, because it's always kissing up to, you know, white supremacy, and then white supremacy kicks you away, and then you come back, you know, with your tongue hanging out, like, are you still gonna pet me again? Like, nah, you know, it's like, leave them alone. And, you know, that's one of the issues that I also have, you know, is, you know, people like Kamala Harris talking about running again. Number one, black people already don't like her. Let's just be real. Okay. Back in 2020, when she was running under the Democratic primary, she got maybe 1% of the black vote. She lost the black vote to two white men. Two white men. And the thing is that why did she lose? It's because we see through her. We know the phrase, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. And guess what? She was definitely not kinfolk. We saw more solidarity from Bernie Sanders than we did with her. We saw more from Joe Biden. She couldn't beat Joe Biden and getting the black vote in the 2020 Democratic primary. That tells you something deep about her. The fact that Jim Crow Joe could beat her, that says a lot to me.
It's deep, but it's also, people are looking at that prosecutorial record. People are looking at her not really speaking up when things do happen to black folks. When's the last time you heard her say anything? I could be wrong. Please correct me if I am, because I'm not above reproach in that regard. But Sonia Massey, the lady that was shot in her face, at what point, and this is this year, at what point did Kamala say anything in regard to her? All we've gotten is she's not the black president. And then you also have to take into account, black folks are smarter than she would like to believe that we are. Here's why. Look at the platforms you're going to. So in my mind, and I'm hoping that my comrades across the diaspora feel the same, you going to the Breakfast Club, you going to all the Smoke podcasts, you doing all of these trivial things. And we know, or at least I know anyway, that the person that's interviewing you don't know the first thing about politics, what to ask, or nothing. The most politically savvy person that they had on any of these platforms, and she's dangerous too, Angela Rye. She's an attorney by trade, been around the game for a long time, sat up there and was completely full of shit. Because if you're going to sit there and talk about how, you know, there's no respect for women, somebody please tell me the percentage of women that are out there on the Gaza Strip, or that were out there. Or somebody tell me the percentage of black folks that live in Jackson, Mississippi, and Flint, Michigan, in ghettos across the country that are often forgotten about. So it's like, you can say this, but y'all don't give a damn about these people either. And it's like the jig is up. Y'all done, you know, a little bit too much dip on your chip as far as we not doing this, that, and the other. Black folks are tired of just these empty promises. Maybe it's that, because you could say, all right, well, people stayed home or they voted for third party. I voted for third party as well, and I'm okay with that. And the reason why I'm okay with that is because I got a hard pass on genocide is a big ass red flag for me when I know that not only are the people being genocided in Palestine, but my people are being genocided on a continent, and there's people being genocided right here. When you mess up somebody's water supply and don't give them clean water to bathe in, to drink in, to consume, when you live in dilapidated housing, when you don't have adequate employment, the truth of the matter is that too is a form of genocide. It's just happening at a slower clip. You can't continue to keep telling these you middle class. All right, poor folks and working class folks such as ourselves, we're looking like, well, at what point do you actually get to change our material conditions, our material realities?
Yeah.
Here's the reality of it. All y'all doing is putting more police in these neighborhoods with cop cities the same way that IDF is running around in Palestine. So the parallel itself is there. And I'm going to stop in a moment because I know I'm rambling at this particular point.
No, you're good.
But yeah, the parallel that's there, we have to look at it like maybe there'd be less crime if there was less poverty, which there's a direct correlation between the two, if I'm not mistaken. But crime exists because people are unhoused, people are, unemployed or underemployed, because they're going to always tell you about the unemployment rate without telling you about the people that are employed, but still can't pay for rent and groceries at the same time. That still don't have the basic necessities that they need. You keep talking about these middle class folks. Okay, cool. These folks get to go on vacation. These folks get to pay their rent, their mortgage, their car note, so on and so forth. What about them black folks that can't afford to get bus fare, train fare in order to get from point A to point B?
That was me.
You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I'm from New York. I lived in that project majority of my life up until I moved a few years ago. And I could tell you the NYCHA system, New York City Housing Authority system, could charge you up to 30% of your rent. Anybody can go Google that right now. So say you make 50 grand, you're still paying X amount of money to live in conditions to where maintenance ain't gonna fix that building. They're not gonna get rid of them rats. They're not gonna get rid of the criminal element, because on every corner, as it's historically been, you got BS food that's gonna kill you. You got liquor stores. And none of this stuff is being talked about. Like, at what point do you actually get to, all right, well, this is the plan that I have. This is the agenda that we have to fix the conditions that y'all have been stuck with since the day before forever.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing because, of course, I did vote third party. And to all the politicians that keep talking about the middle class, you can talk about the middle class all you want. But I think of it as, if you're not going to look at this like a triage situation, what does triage do? Triage, what they do in the emergency room is that they will look at everybody they have in that emergency room, and the most severe cases get the care first. If that's the case, to be honest with you, the middle class actually needs to go behind some of us. But the problem is that they want to cater to the middle class because that's where some of the money's at. And it's not even really the money per se. It's just that's supposed to be the largest block of people. And, you spoke to so many different things. Like, for instance, if Kamala really cared about women, then she would care about the rate of miscarriages going up 300% in Gaza. 300%.
Mm-hmm. She would care about that. She would care about these illegal hysterectomies that have been given at detainment camps.
Oh, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
She would care about the rate at which Black women are subjected to and have miscarriages at higher rates, or are subject to their babies being killed in the stage of infancy. So the infant mortality rate is definitely higher. But No, she gets to talk about the stuff that is superficial, that's on the surface, and give out what she's good for, which is word salad and not much of anything else. Because what I was taught to look at and what I was taught to learn is, all right, well, cool, you said this. What else is behind this? Sub questions of sorts. What's the follow-up to this? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's go back to the video. I want to dissect this just a little bit more. All great points. Thank you very much for that.
And we don't feel like Kamala took advantage of that as much.
And let me talk about the consulting class really quick, because it is a big issue that there are 3 big media analytics firms that got about $280 million in ad production and placement money through the Harris campaign. A lot of that $1 billion went toward ad buys.
Let's not forget also the $350,000 that went to Roland Martin and a couple $1 million that went to Oprah.
Hey, bro, because if I talk, and Roland Martin is the most sensitive cat running around the internet with the biggest mouth. I'm going to say this right now. Here's the reality of it, and it's not just Roland Martin. What I'm going to say is the people that he has in his corner, i.e. Dr. Greg Carr, respects to him because Greg Carr is brilliant. I've heard this elder speak. I know what he's capable of, but this is also why he's dangerous. You know for a fact you are a Africana Studies professor. You have a law degree, but you sitting here co-signing Roland Martin's nonsense in regard to all the shit that he's spewing while accepting money from corporate sponsors. If you're gonna accept money from corporate sponsors, guess what you got to do? You got to play the game. Your opinion ain't really your own. And I don't understand how you going to sleep at night when you just was step and fetch it for corporate sponsors. Now, I seen the video with a brother that pulled up on Roland Martin because Roland was talking spicy. Roland ain't had nothing to say at that point. When I see the engagement online, it's always like you coming at people through condescension because you're after your own personal gain as opposed to what's good for the collective, for the masses. Y'all don't give a damn about black folks either. They have to stop pretending as if they do.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, look, if you got all that smoke online, you better be prepared to get that smoke in real life. You know
That's
what I'm
a fact.
saying? You know, because
two things for certain. At some point, somebody's gonna pull up on you, and when that person pull up on you and ask you what you was talking about, then at that point,
he said, "What's up?" And Roland Martin was like, he put a woman in front of him.
Like it's the most ridiculous it's the most ridiculous thing as far as the black misleadership class is concerned. Like you have to, all right, cool. Well, this person does know this. This is accurate, but you also get these folks that know they know better and will do otherwise. If I know what I know and I act opposite to it, I'm doing a disservice to my people. I refuse to do it, irrespective of what station I'm at in life.
But that also goes into the question, what matters more? Does the money or the mission matter more? And I've had this conversation with my comrades, Savvy Sabs, all the time. What matters more? Does the money matter more or does the mission matter more? And the funny part is, any one of us at RBN, any one of us could suddenly go, I'm a conservative, look at me, and then rake in all the MAGA dollars, right? And then next thing you know, and we can say, well, we're just doing this because we want to get big enough so that we can spread the message more. But the thing is that we're losing our integrity just to be able to get some money. And the problem is that that's what we see with the consulting class. That's what we see. And I include people like Roland Martin in that class too. Because the thing is like he was one of the people that basically used his platform in order to get more money. And the thing is, he's talking about, oh, well, I'm trying to get advertising dollars for a black network. And it's like, okay, you're trying to get advertising dollars. Why didn't you get the advertising dollars from Donald Trump? Why didn't you get advertising dollars from third parties? Why didn't you have them on? Right? Because the thing is, like, ultimately, you're talking about wanting to grow, because when you're a platform, a network, the only color you recognize is green. So why didn't you have Donald Trump on to talk to him? I mean, you could have even been adversarial, but you could have talked to him, but you didn't. And now you're talking about, well, this is advertising dollars. No, bro. You honestly was just a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party. And the thing is, like, you could have even disclosed that, but you didn't bother to disclose that. We literally had to go to FEC filings just to look it up. And boom, there it is, $350,000. And really, this is why I talk about the consulting class being a money grab. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, from what I see, is that elections are just big business. That's all they are. It's just a means for consultants to make more money. And they know that we're going to oscillate or vacillate between Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, because it's all one party. And it's just a means to make more dough. This is election season. It's all a season, just like it's Christmas season when you're shopping. Because when I used to work in retail, whenever Christmas season came up, we had to prepare for it. Same thing with election season. And guaranteed, in 2 years, 2.25 years, these consultants are going to prime up again for 2028 in order to make more money. That's all it's about. This is why all these Act Blues and, pushing for, with the Republican equivalent of it, that's what these consultants are there for. They're bottom feeders, right? And so, I rambled on a little bit. I'm sorry.
No, you're good, but you're not wrong. And like you said, in their case, it is more about dollarism than it is about the actual mission. It's never going to be something that's a method of liberatory means. You're not going to liberate the people. Like Roland Martin is who he is, and the people that are backing him and the people that are in his immediate circle that are not telling him that this ain't it, that this ain't right. Y'all are equally guilty, irrespective of whether you said one word or whether you said a bunch of words.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's continue on. I want to make sure I get as much of this in as possible.
Gambit Strategies got $122 million. A company called Bully Pulpit Interactive got about $101 million. And to come back to you for a moment, Tom, what didn't get a lot of money were voter turnout groups on the ground, groups like Black Voters Matter and Voto Latino, who just specialize in turning out more liberal or Democratic-leaning voters. Was part of the problem that there was an air campaign, a traditional air campaign taking place on the Democratic side, a non-traditional air campaign and social media campaign on the Republican side, and just not enough ground game?
Well, if I can add to that, there was also a calculation, and a lot of this was on the outside sort of independent expenditure groups. We know almost $1 billion was spent just by one of those organizations on the Democratic side. There was a calculation that the messaging should come in late in the campaign, and that, again, it should be mostly on the air. And in the end, when we look at when people made up their minds from the exit polls, you see Vice President Harris was winning in September, winning in October, and it was really the people who made up their minds in the last couple of weeks. But your point about organizing, yes, we talk about turnout. And again, as I say, in the battleground states, Democratic turnout appeared to be pretty good, but we were losing just a critical mass of these voters. It's a lesson that we can't just be investing in registration and then say, let's hope they show out. We need to be communicating throughout the cycle, not just in the last few weeks.
You know what? That sounds great, but to me, it's like, no, you don't need to communicate better. You need to do actual on the ground, tangible policies better so that people will remember and go, oh yeah, this person did this good thing for me. Like your spin is not going to make things better. And I hate to sound gruesome, but do not shape a pile of shit into chocolate ice cream and put some sprinkles on it and tell me it's chocolate ice cream. That's exactly what they do. They do that every time. And then they say, "Oh, look, it's ice cream," and we know and we smell it, and we're like, "Nah, get this stuff away from me." And you try to convince us of what you try to say it is, but it's not.
I think Samuel Jackson got one of the best quotes I've heard in the movie, and that's in Juice when he says, "Just because you pour syrup on shit, don't make it pancakes." I'm gonna be all the way honest with you in regard to that. You're absolutely correct in stating that. Here's the reality of it. Mm-hmm. She threw these fundraisers, overpaid these damn celebrities, went into debt doing so, and didn't even have the decency after she lost to come out and console the people that were going through hell and high water to be able to get her elected.
This is why I say this, we have a disease of consulting class, and this is why I think, and we talk about this all the time. I see Roger Meadows in the chat. We talk about how money has to be out of politics. But the thing is that within a capitalist system, it's inevitable that money will be in politics because it's a money-making, profit-making system. So, of course, money's going to be in politics. You're not going to get money out of politics until the capitalist system ends. I'm sorry, but a lot of people are going to be like, well, we just got to get money out of politics. No. You got to change the system first in order for that to happen. Because the profit making will continue as long as this system continues.
Yeah, and that's a fact. And like I said, I look at it this way too. Somebody with a degree in political science, and a dual degree actually, because she has a degree in political science and a degree in economics. How are you that piss poor with money when you've had the option to have institutional training in it? And then if your mom, like she states, immigrated to this country and had to manage a certain budget, even living in middle class, how do you go $20 million in the debt off your campaign?
I mean, giving money to all these artists ain't helping either. I mean, did Beyonce help Kamala? How much, did Megan Thee Stallion help Kamala? How much did Eminem help Kamala?
You can get Beyonce, Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B. You can get all of these celebrities, and they can go to. Because here's the reality of it. They're going to take the money because it's what they've been doing, but you listen to them for entertainment, and then you turn that shit off because you're not living the lifestyle. You don't have, or you're not in the tax bracket. They're not even thinking about you and wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire, to be quite honest. But people are like, oh, all right, well, one of the things that I was hearing was even Waltz, right? Because he's coming out of Minnesota, signed a law, and I think we spoke about this the last time too, making a Prince Day, a national a Prince Day for the state of Minnesota in purple ink. And I saw a tweet saying that he gets it. This is what he's done. But everything he's done has been tied to celebrity. So this is how low they think of you. They can just take whatever celebrity you favor, put them in front of you, and you're going to go with what this person says, even if it contradicts the things that are in your best interest. I have to, to me, it don't make sense. But, and here's the reality. I listen to Prince. I listen to all of the music that other people listen to as well. It's not just, revolutionary Pan-African shit. It's not just my faces in a book. I'll do the same shit everybody else does. But at some point, you have to find that balance to where it's like, all right, cool. I've already turned this song off. I'm living in this messed up condition. My condition is not changing. Part of the reason why the condition is not changing, high crime, high poverty, all politics that are shaping the neighborhood in which I live in, and nobody's asking any questions. We keep looking at this. There's a bunch of people walking around that don't know what capitalism means. There's a bunch of people walking around that don't know what communism, socialism means. Yeah. But you get to put these words up as a politician, and at no point did anybody say, yo, let me go look this up.
I think some of them do. They just don't want that system because this system works for them. And they're in their mind, they're like, well, people can just do what I did. When in reality, that's not realistic. I
kind of look at it from a Dr. King perspective, a more radical Dr. King perspective, when he was like, just to summarize, it's unfair to tell somebody to pull themselves up by the bootstraps when they don't have boots.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like to say, all right, well, I did this. Through which means did you do it? That's one question I would ask. And how much of yourself did you give up? Like, are you even you anymore?
That's
because true. And here's the thing. Everybody, every single last one of us that's living in this space grew up thinking the end all be all was, all right, you get a bunch of money, you good. But what does it mean for you to be living lavishly and your people live in squalor?
That's also a really good point. Yep. Because my conscience will be hurting me every single night if I was living lavishly and then all my neighbors and all my people were harmed, you know? So damn.
Not only that, but you definitely in harm's way because they know where you at.
That's also true too. You know, there was, you know, because there's some overlap of agreement, but there was some disagreement because me and Savvy had was it 2 weeks ago? We had on Dr. Boyce Watkins on, and he was talking about essentially pushing more Black people to be more financially literate. And, you know, my pushback is, you know, if I'm, you know, making $1,500 and my rent is $1,700, I don't care how financially literate I am, I can't make $1,500 into $1,700 living paycheck to paycheck.
Not without utilizing extra legal means. Or having to have like a side hustle, which of course a side hustle is still you being exploited for your labor, and then you too tired to do any damn thing.
That is also true. And so ultimately, you know, people are now trying to push Black people and they're going, well, you guys just need to invest in this and invest in that and stop. And then they'll make they'll cry about, well, you guys just need to stop spending your money on and insert this frivolous thing. And it's like, you know what? People deserve also to be able to enjoy their lives and have leisure. I think we've also gotten into a culture where we think that leisure is, you know, something that's not as important, when in reality is that it is all in part and parcel of the human experience, the human existence, to be able to rest and actually be able to replenish yourself both mentally, emotionally, and physically. But we seem to downplay that because we have capitalist brain thinking that we have to be robots every single time. It's the same thing when they teach us men that we have to be devoid of our emotions, except for anger and rage, just so that we can get the job done. But then next thing you know, when we're, you know, treating our loved ones like crap, or we're, you know, being, you know, holding all these emotions in, and we finally blow up at somebody, then it's like, oh my God, I can't believe men are like this. And it's like, yeah, because we've been taught to be this way so that we, you know, continue to perpetuate this system the way it is. You know, and it's just, I'm at the point where it is up to us, you know, men like us, especially, to you know, teach our boys about what this system is and how horrible it is and what we can do in order to change it, because really the power is in our hands. No politician is really going to save us, you know, but, you know, and that's one of the things I try to impart to my nephews, especially. Because ultimately what we have to do is we have to change it for the future. If not for their future, then for their kids, you know?
Yeah, no, that's valid, you know, into that kind of point or whatever. Even with like the financial literacy thing, that's become more of a hustle. I have to call it what it is. Cause like you said, you can't just magically turn 1,500 into 1,700 without having to go and get a side gig, without maybe having to do extra legal, you know, stuff in order to be able to survive out there. And then as far as like the demonstration of emotions and looking for leisure, so that way you got that small piece, that small pocket of joy. Everybody, if not for nothing else, should have that. But I believe that the capitalist system robs people of it, because you're taught that if you don't have this material thing, you mean nothing. I remember being a kid collecting like the East Bay magazines. I'm like, damn, I want these sneakers. I want this. Now I'm in the dark buying all of the things it is that I want, but the novelty is one up, because I'm like, wait a minute, this person ain't got groceries. This person ain't got this. I still buy every now and again for myself, but I'm also looking at it like there's more to life than just the material things. Of course, people want things, but like Kwame Ture says, and I hope everybody will go out and listen to this. It's called What's in a Name. People want things, but you have to show them that there are things that are more important in life than material items.
Yeah.
I'm into material, but I'm more into material dialectics, if I'm going to be completely honest, as far as that particular aspect of it is concerned. Like, we have to, you know, man, woman, child, whomever that is part of our, you know, our culture, our sphere, our diaspora, make it to where not only is there cooperative economics, but there's political education to go behind it. That way it makes more sense. Giving people money ain't it, because you can give somebody money, and if they don't know what to do with it, or if they don't see the importance of it, they can go right back to being broke. Look at these, you know, we could talk about the celebrities, but we also have to mention the celebrities that had it and lost it all. Everybody loved Marvin Gaye. I grew up on the music. Read Divided Soul if anybody gets a chance, just to see how poor Marvin Gaye was with money, to the point where he had to stay out the country for a few years because of tax evasion. So it's a matter of, we have to look more into our humanity than we look at whatever was laid out by our oppressors as what's important versus what's not. Because this thing that capitalism does is it flips everything over. Yeah. It makes the meaningless meaningful. It makes the meaningful meaningless.
Ooh,
so you know, so it's a lot to kind of just look at that way. And these people that are out for personal gain, that's not voting liberalism in, is not harm reduction, which is one of the BS narratives that they were running.
Mm-hmm.
If that liberalism is still going to come at the expense of human life, if you're not talking about fixing the conditions, then you're no better. You're running game on the people, and you know better if you're somebody that's part of the Black community, if you're somebody that's part of the LGBTQIA plus community, if you're somebody that's Mexican, Cuban, or whatever, any person that has been niggerized or that has been othered within the confines of the capitalist system and the white hegemony that has been experienced since the day before forever in the US, has to be honest about how we get away from this.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, man, I want this conversation to continue, but I promised you 45 minutes and I went over that. Man, look, let me tell you something. I took a sniff and I was like, oh man, this dude is cooking in the kitchen right now. So I was just enjoying it, man. But hey, so I would love to have you back on, especially to talk about more of the social aspects and how it combines with capitalism and what we can do in order to, because one of the books I've been reading, some people don't like this book that I'm reading, but it is what it is. I don't care. You know, people can feel how they want. But one of the books I've been reading was, was by Bell Hooks.
Mm-hmm.
The Will to Change. And one of the things that she interjects with is how capitalism feeds into patriarchy, and then how, we end up damaging ourselves because we try to feed into the system. And so, I've been trying to change myself on the inside as well. I told you I was, going to the gym, so I'm trying to change myself on the outside, but I'm trying to also change myself on the inside as well, to be a better servant of the people, so that whenever I do mutual aid, whenever I do organizing, I'm better suited for the work that I'm trying to do, as a person. And so I would love to have you on, to help, teach and guide people like myself, the audience. And so I really just want you to come back, and please don't be a stranger.
I'll be back as long as y'all have me.
Thank you. So what do you have coming up as well? Any special projects, or also where can they find you? At
the moment, nothing, because I've got stuff kind of going on with the family at the moment. Mm-hmm. And I've got comrades that are kind of moving around. So it's a little bit of a restructuring. So everything is kind of on hold, but I'll be around. Okay. So I can always be found. Where to find me. I'm always on socials. So that's the easiest Way, if I have anything coming up, I'll be sure to put it out there. We just finished teaching a political education course at the local bookstore, local Black-owned bookstore. Shout out to Grassroots Bookstore for having us in downtown Phoenix. And it was just in regard to an introduction to the All African People's Revolutionary Party, why it is important to have collectives, why it's important to have community. How do we break away from the system that's held us down to the point where we don't know which way up is? So that was, more along those lines. And anybody that is just, of course, anybody that's part of the African diaspora, but anybody that is not part of this white hegemonic space also understands that particular piece of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And here is your Twitter page. So I also put the link inside the description in the chat as well, so you guys can go there. Thank you so very much for joining me, and I hope to see you again very soon. We'll have this conversation again.
Likewise, brother. You take care.
All right, man. Take care. All right, folks. So that was AfriKeem joining. It was such a great conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed that as well. Whew, man, some gems there that was being dropped. So let me switch that around. So if you guys have not already, go ahead and give a like to the stream. Appreciate it very much. It means the most to me. So thank you. Thank you so very much for that. All right. So we're going to get into the comments in the chats, and then we will carry on with our next subject. First off, what I'm going to do is I am going to pop this out so I can do the rock fin. I already checked Rumble, so we're good on Rumble. So let's go there. What you gonna do when you can't say no? With the feelings got to show, but you really know it. How you gonna act? How you gonna handle that? What you gonna do when she wants you back? All right. Thank you so much to Roger. He says, when the message is out of sync with people's lived experience as a result of bad policy, then it's not messaging, it's policy. And no amount of great messaging will ever be able to overcome bad policy, resulting in a lived experience. Exactly. And this, you actually put it in a more eloquent way than I could. And I appreciate that, Roger. That's one of the problems I see, especially with the Democratic Party, is they'll say, well, you just got to do better messaging. I'm like, no amount of message. Like, look, no amount of messaging will change the facts, or the material facts on the ground. Like, for instance, you could say, like, so over a year, about 18 months ago, I lost my grandmother. My grandmother died, right? That's a material fact. The Democrats will come in and go, your grandmother's living impaired. No. You're not going to switch things around, because the thing is like the material facts are the material facts, right? You're not going to sit here and try to spin something when she's not here anymore. That's what the Democrats do. Well, look at it this way. No. Don't look at it this way. Don't look at it that way. We'll look at it what it is. And that's the problem, is that they'll talk about messaging and how we need to look at it differently. And it's like, I'm still homeless. How can I look at it differently? And some people will go, well, that's just, you're just in a trial period. It's just like with religious people go, well, you're just in a trial period and God is testing you. And I'm not going after religious people at all. But what I'm saying is that, what do you say for people who've never been homeless? Are they not having in favor with God? See, that's the thing. It's wild, because we're always being spun on our material conditions not being there for us. And then when we complain about it, it's, well, look on this bright side. And it's like, no, there is no bright side to this. Sorry, Roger, you got me on You got me on a soapbox moment. But thank you very much for that. Let's go to this chat and say hello to the people. So we have CBC Voter saying happy Tuesday at JB. Good to see you, CBC Voter. Jacqueline coming in saying, hey, everyone. Hey, JB. Good to see you, Jacqueline. Kate Mack is in the chat saying, hey, Kate. Sabitha says, hey, everyone. Wow, too many people live now. Danny, do dissonance as well. Yeah, but the only difference, though, is my time is always 2 p.m. on Tuesdays. So if people switch around, that's them. But I'm always here live on 2 p.m. on Tuesdays. So that's how I rock. All right. My consistency is my strength. We have Terry Connolly coming in and saying, hey, JB and comrades, so good to see. Kate Max says, Shaquille, sounds like you have a strong mama. That's awesome. Yeah. You know, sometimes, you know, some of the guests, I want to meet their parents because their parents sound like they'd be probably very awesome people. So I would like to meet them. Social emotional learning with Dr. Donnie says, happy lunchtime. Happy lunchtime with you. And yeah, this is interesting. Dr. Donnie says, JB, this show didn't show up in my notifications. I only found out because I'm going to buy. So, are you subscribed to my Substack? Because that's how you also can get notifications straight from me. So if you have not, you guys can subscribe to my Substack. I also have that linked in the description as well below. So if you guys would like to, you guys can also subscribe there so you guys can get the email notifications instead. So thank you very much. And yes, Jacqueline, it was 1948 when the Nakba happened. Jimmy Tiso off the Twitter side says, fire. Thank you so very much for Jimmy for watching on the Twitter side. Appreciate it. Waddy Pilgrim says, hey, everybody. Good to see you, Waddy. All right. Jacqueline says, if Kamala had any communism in her, she wouldn't have been allowed on the ticket. Absolutely. It's funny how they will talk about Bernie being a socialist, and Bernie got more votes than anybody else in the Democratic primary in 2020. And he was the lead heir apparent. And people heard, oh my God, he's a socialist. And people didn't care. They were focused on the policies. Socialism is no longer a dirty word. Welcome to the revolution. Roger Meadows says, that's why I give respect to everyone online, even when in disagreement. Yeah. And the thing is, it's like, it's kind of funny because I put out a tweet yesterday replying, was it yesterday or the day before? Replying to somebody because some right-wing MAGA person basically called Kareem Jean-Pierre ugly, which really is, you know, some people may not see it, but from somebody like me, I see that it's steep in anti-Blackness, primarily because I didn't see them call Jen Psaki ugly. They damn sure didn't call Kamala Harris ugly, right? A lot of these women in politics, you know, they're not calling Lauren Boebert ugly. And so the fact that they focused on her looks, I'm like, plus she's a dark-skinned Black woman, it's anti-Blackness. But the fact that I actually brought that out, guess what? A bunch of people are now insulting me. And honestly, if we were standing in real life, some of them probably would have spat in my face. All because I brought out something that a lot of them probably overlooked. And I said that they would use me bringing up about being anti-Blackness as race, but they would use that as plausible deniability, saying, well, we didn't bring up about her race. But in reality, it is, you know, there's a lot of racist dog whistles that are said throughout but a lot of times people they miss it, and then they may agree, and then next thing you know, when you bring it out as a racist dog whistle, then hit dogs will holler, and then they'll go, "Oh, that's not what we meant," or they'll say, "Oh, well, she's ugly on the inside." You never said that about anybody else. You guys could have said that about Kamala. You guys could have said that about Jen Psaki. You guys could have said that about Lauren Boebert, but you guys didn't. You guys chose now to talk about Kareem Jean-Pierre's looks. Look, I find her to be a detestable person for covering for a genocidal regime, but I'm going to attack her for the policies that she upheld, the lies that she told, and the spin that she did. I don't need to focus on her looks to do that, right? But other people did, right? And so it just goes to show that, we have a long way to go, especially when it comes to decolonizing our minds in this country. Danny Bethia says over $1 billion accumulated by her campaign, and they were still in the red. Yes, $20 million in the red, to be exact. $20 million. Jesus. Oh, yeah, Jacqueline, you ain't saying nothing but the truth. Says if you had turned conservative, JB, you wouldn't have been demonetized. Yeah. Waddy says he be ranking in the dough and hanging out with the cool kids. If he sold out like that, methinks having integrity may not pay as well, but it keeps your soul intact. Yeah, my conscience is clear when it comes to my channel. Definitely. Thank you so very much. Amy says, crud, I missed the beginning. We'll have to rewind. It's all good, Amy. We're glad you're here. Nice to have you. Let me make sure. Why he says she's attractive, but so are the Disney villainesses. Yeah. Yeah. Amy says, you wonder how many people who might have a lot to offer refrain from having any kind of public profile because they find that looks-based analysis so emotionally bruising. Yeah, you're right. Thank you very much for that, Amy. Appreciate it. So what are we going to do now? I'm going to give a shout out to patrons first, and then we'll get into our next segment. So that's what we're going to do right now. So I just want to give a big shout out and thank you to the patrons for doing the damn thing and keeping the lights on, both literally and figuratively. You guys make this happen. So here are the tiers. Thank you so very much to the Mega Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters, Jaybefaunters, Comrades, Solidarity, and JB members. And shout out to new member Jasmine Harrell. Thank you so very much for becoming a member on Patreon. It is deeply appreciated. It literally keeps the lights on. Literally. And by the way, my channel is demonetized. So if you'd like to support the channel, you can support via Patreon or PayPal. Thank you very much. Just to let you guys know, also, we are trying to raise money for the RB and Orlando chapter so we can do further mutual aid in the next few weeks. So if you guys would like to, you guys can donate via Cash App at $Orlando RBN. And yes, I will put the Cash App link in the description, in the chat, if you guys would like to. We're trying to do some more work on the ground. We actually did some help volunteering with Real Orlando and People's Free Kitchen over the weekend. And that was a beautiful and joyous thing that we did. And so we want to do more, and they will come to ours as well to assist us. And so this is what it's about: mutual aid, building dual power, doing what you can for the community. And that's what we're trying to do. So anybody that gives any type of donation, it is deeply appreciated. Also, just to let you know, if you do not want if you want to remain anonymous, just put in the notes that you want to remain anonymous. But yes, that's what we're trying to do now. So thank you so very much to everybody for your contributions to doing for our mutual aid. And also, when we do our next action, I will be doing announcements on this channel, on RBN, on our socials as well, so that you guys are aware. I'll probably try to do it within 2 weeks of the action, so that you guys, if you are local, you can join us in the action as well. Thank you. All right, so let's get into the next subject. Dun, 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 dun. Airport workers on strike. Strike. All right, people. Let's get ready to rumble. Strikes. They are a tool used by workers in order to be able to wield power. And workers in Charlotte, North Carolina are doing the damn thing. We're going to get into this because I think this is deeply important. This is vital for us to know. So let's go ahead and take a look. Let me share my screen really quick. And let's see. All right. Airport workers on strike.
This is a look at some service workers at the Charlotte International Airport who are on strike. Moments ago, they were speaking out at this event right here. They have gone on strike, going on strike earlier today during a busy week of Thanksgiving travel to protest what they say are unlivable wages. Employees of ABM and Prospect Airport Services, they voted on this on Friday to authorize this work stoppage in North Carolina. Again, that began this morning. They have a contract with American Airlines to provide services, including cleaning airplane interiors, removing trash, and escorting passengers in wheelchairs. And joining me now to speak more on this is Laura Kelly, who is a Prospect unaccompanied minor escort, as well as a passenger assistant agent for American Airlines passengers at Charlotte Douglas International Airport. Laura, we appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Hi, I'm proud to be here. I'm actually looking forward to this interview. My fellow employees and myself need our voices heard.
No doubt that this was not an easy decision on your end, along with your fellow colleagues. Why did you feel that you had no other choice except to strike?
Because right now, with what we get paid, we can't take care of our families. I'm living in an extended stay hotel, and I was told this at the beginning of October that my family is getting evicted. And as of 12 o'clock today, I don't have a place to go.
Let's start right there. What have I said on this channel multiple times? If you're living in a hotel or motel, you are homeless because you're living in a place under duress where it is a very precarious position. Plus, have you ever been in any of those motel rooms or extended stays? They're not very big. Especially when you have your entire family confined to that little space, where you have to do your dishes at the bathroom sink, where you have to cook at the bathroom sink, or you have to cook with a hot plate, or you have to cook with the microwave, where you're forced to eat relatively unhealthy food because that's what's quick and easy and cheap. Where some of your family may have to sleep on the floor because there's not enough room on the 2 queen beds. Trust me, I know. And so when it comes to situations like this, you mean to tell me that someone that works at the airport doesn't make enough for them to have permanent housing, in a decent apartment. They're working. And yet, even still, that's not good enough. Before we continue, I want to share this. This is from the National Low Income Housing Coalition, Out of Reach. And this is in North Carolina. In North Carolina, you need to make $25.21 an hour in order to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. Let's go in here. So this is North Carolina. Their minimum wage is the federal minimum wage. Their minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. I want you guys to walk with me. Walk with me. If you need to afford $25 an hour, almost $26 an hour, to afford a 2-bedroom apartment, and the minimum wage is only $7.25 an hour. 7, 14, 21, 28. It's almost 4 times the amount in order to be able to live. And some of y'all wonder why I'm a communist. Because ultimately, the people are suffering. In Charlotte, you need to work 120 hours a week to afford a modest 1-bedroom rental home at fair market rent. That is wicked. That is wicked. No wonder why they're going on strike on one of the busiest holiday travel days in the year. Well, let's continue with this. Let's amplify her voice.
To go. My family is at our hotel room right now, packing up and getting ready to leave. And I know quite a few of my fellow runners and PSA runners are also in the same predicament.
And we were hearing No, absolutely. And not to interrupt you, Laura, we were hearing from some of your colleagues at the protest that happened earlier today in Charlotte. There's obviously a lot of discussions as to when to strike. This is, of course, a very busy travel holiday season. And, can you talk about the strategy behind that? Because no doubt you wanted this decision to really reach across to as many people as possible.
Yes, we didn't really want to strike, but we understand that the passengers are wanting to go see their families and be able to actually spend time with their families and have Thanksgiving dinner. But there are a lot of us out here working for Prospect and UBM that aren't going to be able to actually have a Thanksgiving dinner or have a roof over our heads to share Thanksgiving dinner with our families.
What would you like the outcome of this to be? What would you like to see in terms of improvements?
My main thing is have the respect. If they want us to show them respect, they need to respect us as employees and give us a living wage. Make it where we don't have to worry about making our rent payment and not taking our medication that actually keeps us alive.
How long do you anticipate
without medication?
No, absolutely.
Let me say this. That's why Kamala lost. I'm sorry. Y'all saying, oh, well, we gotta talk about, you know, the woman's right to choose and things like that. It's like, yeah, that's important, but how are you going to eat? How are you going to live? See, this is the pride that a lot of people who are Democrats that they don't get. Some of y'all are so secure that it doesn't occur to you that some people have to make a choice between, do I eat or do I get my meds? Do I pay my rent or do I have my medication to keep me alive? Or do I pay my rent or do I pay my electricity? Or do I eat or do I have lights on? You guys do not see the choices that are being made in poor households all over this country. And then you sit there and go, the economy is great. Look, GDP is up. The stocks, they're good. See, we're wonderful. You're spitting in the face of workers. And also, you conservatives, don't come for me, because this is your system. This is your system. This is the capitalist system that you guys say, oh, well, everybody's lifted up out of poverty. This is you. This is all you. And then when we talk about we need to change the system, oh, no, you guys just want stuff for free. Evictions, hunger, lack of health care. But then you say, oh, well, it's just that person just didn't apply themselves in life. They're literally working. Get some empathy. Let's continue.
How long do you anticipate this strike might last?
I'm hoping just today. I'm hoping today is their wake-up call. I'm hoping today they finally realize, hey, we mean business. And if something doesn't change, they're going to have a lot of issues getting people in those planes and keeping those planes clean, because we're not going to be there to do the job. They're going to have to step up and do the job because they're not giving us enough money to be wanting to come and do the job.
And Laura, before we let you go, is there anything else that you would like to share with our Live Now from Fox viewers?
My thing right now is I just want everybody to be able to take care of their families and be able to take care of themselves. My health has been affected so much since I started with Prospect. I've had to be in the hospital because I've had to chase a DPNA down when the gate agent has not been there to stop them. I've had supervisors literally telling me, you go here in 10 minutes to pick this person up. And then we had to go all the way across the daggum airport and get them on another flight. And some of us have medical issues that keep us from being able to run or be able to push these people that are twice our size or sometimes even 3 times our size, along with their luggage, their family members that might be coming with them. They want us to let them hold the kids. It's a no-win situation all around.
Well, we're going to be keeping a very close eye on all of those developments, Laura. As you mentioned, you are hoping that the strike only lasts one day. We appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now.
So this is some of the human variables about what happens when it comes to the strikes. And strikes aren't easy on the workers because you got to remember, they're literally striking, which means that they're not working and earning the money that even though they weren't earning enough, they weren't earning something. And this is why we talk about mutual aid being such a powerful thing, because some of these people, you know, you have different sources of mutual aid. I showed from Comrade Workwear One of them is financial mutual aid. Is there a strike fund so that these workers can be able to survive while they're striking? That's one variable that a lot of people could be contributing to. If you're within the area, you know there's striking workers, do you have the ability to bring some drinks, bring some cookies? Or if you know somebody like her that's being evicted out of their place, do you know of any resources where you can get her rehoused? Or do you have a strike fund or a fund where you can help her to be able to pay rent so that she can stay at least another month? There's so many different ways that we can do to help our fellow neighbors, right? And then, on the back end, looking at it from, 30,000 feet, and looking at it from, 500 yards away, what are we doing in order to make it so that these workers are okay in the long run? For instance, we was talking to Roger Meadows, talks about ballot initiatives. Are you in a ballot initiative state? Can you create laws that are direct democracy by the people in order to make the lives of people like that woman easier? Because ultimately, things like a livable wage would actually make people like her life easier. Maybe if you could do a ballot initiative which raises the minimum wage to $25 an hour. Now, look, I say swing for the fence. Go for 30. Go for 30. And then if they talk you down to 20, then hey, you know what I'm saying? But how much would that benefit somebody like her? So maybe you can do your mutual aid part and bring together and make a constitutional amendment so that you can actually help your fellow workers in places like North Carolina. There's so many different variables, but the problem is that a lot of times we're so individualistic, even when we don't feel like we have enough power to do anything. I can poke you in the chest, and that may hurt a little bit, but it's really not going to do enough. I could poke you with 2 fingers, but that may not do enough. I can do it with 3. It'll feel more, you'll hurt more. But then once you take all those fingers and then put them all together, what do you got? You can knock somebody out, or you can knock a system out. And that's the thing. That's the point that I think really needs to run home. We need to focus on the immediate and then the long term. It's like the fish quote. Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. But the thing is like you can teach the man to fish, but if he's too weak to fish, you need to give him a fish for that day first. And then once you give him that fish, then you teach him when his energy is up so that he can learn how to fish and then also fish for a lifetime. And then you fish together. And then when that person doesn't catch enough fish, you share the ones that you catch. When you don't catch enough fish, they share the fish you catch. That's what's called society. But people always stop short. They'll either stop short with the immediate help or they'll stop short with the long-term help. You got to do both. Got to do both. Now, let's get into the article, which actually gets a little bit deeper on this because I wanted to get deeper into this. So, workers at Charlotte Airport and American Airlines hub go on strike during Thanksgiving travel week. So it says workers who clean airplanes, remove trash, and help with wheelchairs at Charlotte's Airport, one of the nation's busiest, went on strike Monday during a busy week of Thanksgiving travel to demand higher wages. Let's focus on what they do. Clean airplanes, remove trash, and help with wheelchairs. So, as the son of someone who is, for all intents and purposes, elderly, These airports are big. You can ride on the people movers all you want. There's still a ton of walking. And for some people who may be elderly, infirm, or, have some difficulty, what have you, they need to be moved, right, in order to catch their flights. These are some of the people who help. And I would want them to be paid a livable wage so that they can help my loved one get around the airport in an efficient fashion. Why not? The people who clean. Do you know what happens on these airplanes? They got to keep infectious diseases down. You know how many asses are in those seats day in, day out? You know how many people scratch and they put their hands on those armrests, on those chairs? Do you know the lavatories? The lavatories. And you don't want to pay these people who are cleaning our planes a living wage? Are you out your ever-loving mind? These planes get dirty. They are two words, nas and tea. And you are telling me you don't want to pay them a living wage? No, pay these people a living wage. Pay them. Y'all charge us an arm and a leg just to get on a flight. And yet you guys don't want to pay the people who clean them, who can keep infections down, who can keep how many people, somebody who probably starts bleeding on the plane. What if, and I hate to get gross on here, but what if a woman's on her cycle and she accidentally in the plane seat? What if somebody has to use the bathroom and all the lavatories are full and they accidentally go on themselves? That has to be cleaned up. Who cleans that up? Planes sometimes have to sit on the tarmac because of different issues. And if they're sitting on the tarmac for an extended period of time, people cough, they sneeze, right? So many things. Trash builds up. And yet you don't want to pay them a living wage. Says the Service Employees International Union announced the strike in a statement early Monday, saying that the workers would demand an end to poverty wages and respect on the job during the holiday season. Respect on the job. That's interesting to put that there. Respect on the job. You want to know why? Because these foundational workers do not get respect for what they do. They're seen as lower on the ladder. So they don't get the respect that they are due, even though they're literally the foundation that keeps this airport running. We don't respect our workers who are the foundation of this country. That's one of the biggest issues. Oh, we respected the hell out of them during the pandemic. But we seem to have amnesia. And now we're going, you guys are just the grunts. You're just the help. Meanwhile, if they all suddenly go on strike, oh, you know exactly who they are now. My mom always said this. What are you going to do when I'm gone? Have I ever said that to you? What are you going to do when I'm gone? This is why I support strikes. Because they're going to show you. They're going to give you a preview. Grab your popcorn, grab your soda. So it says the strike was expected to last 24 hours. That was from Sean Keaty. Says employees of ABM and Prospect Airport Services cast ballots on Friday to authorize the work stoppage at Charlotte Douglas International Airport, a hub for American Airlines. The two companies contract with American, one of the largest, biggest carriers, to provide services such as cleaning airplane interiors, removing trash, and escorting passengers in wheelchairs. American doesn't expect any significant disruption to its flights this week as a result of the strike. The company said in a statement, more than 30 American flights at the Charlotte airport, about 4% of the airline's flights were delayed at mid-afternoon Monday, according to FlightAware, which isn't out of the ordinary. It says workers said that they previously complained that they can't afford basic necessities, including food, housing, or car repairs. They're described living paycheck to paycheck while performing jobs that keep planes running on schedule. Most of them earn $12.50 to $19 an hour, UN officials said. Now, it says those workers should make $22 to $25 an hour, said the Reverend Glenn C. Redrick, of Charlotte Clergy Coalition for Justice and SEIU Airport Workers United rally across from the airport. So remember what I was saying, right? They need to make at least $25 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom. If they are only making between $12.50 and $19 an hour, and $19 an hour is on the high end, they're still not making anywhere near what they need to in order to be able to afford an apartment. And you got to remember, a lot of these people have families, so they have to take care of. So what do you say to them when they're making between $12.50 and $19 an hour and they have kids in school, or they have babies or toddlers that need, to be, taken care of? They don't have, a means to go to daycare. You know how much daycare costs? You know how much diapers cost? You know how much formula costs? A can of Similac or a can of, oh my goodness, what's the name of that? Gerber. You know how much that runs now? You know how much a couple of jars of beech nut costs? When y'all got little kids, you know how much that food costs now? We've been talking about it. Let's continue. So she was joined by striking employees and advocates, many raising signs that read, "Respect Black and brown workers," and "Respect, protect, pay us." Most of these workers are Black and brown. That's who's being exploited. These are the people that both Democratic and Republican parties forget about. And you guys will see them day in and day out at the airport. And you guys actually have enough money to afford to get on a plane. And then you see them working in these airports. And oftentimes, they're some of the nicest people that you run into. They're some of the most helpful people that you run into. And they will make sure that you are okay. And yet, they're the ones who are being the most overlooked and neglected in this country. The people that work behind the counters of some of these retail and restaurants and food places, some of the people that are answering the phones that we sometimes get irate and yell at because they're the public face of the company. The ones that are cleaning, taking out the trash, cleaning up the blood and the piss on the floors, that are doing all these different things. The ones that are taking our cash or our card swipes while we buy food for our kids that don't know how to accept the word no. These are the people. Now, quote, "We cannot live on the wages that we are being paid." That is cabinet cleaner Priscilla Hoyle. Says, "I can honestly say it's hard every single day with my children, working a full-time job, but having to look at my kids in the eyes and sit there and say, I don't know if we're going to have a home today." It says, "At some airports in the Northeast, workers make more because of local wage ordinances." That's from Chris Brahman, a regional director for the union. But that's not the case in some southern cities like Charlotte. So workers are asking the contractors to step up and do the right thing. Regulations. That's what regulations are. When they want to deregulate, then this is also what they're talking about, because they don't actually want to pay people what they should be paid. That's what deregulation is. I'm not saying that all regulation is good regulation, but I'm saying within reason, things like this, regulation is actually a good thing because you need to pay people what they should be paid. Especially when they're working for a public-facing company. Look, here's my thing. Ultimately, as a communist, I think that all airports should be ran by the municipalities that they are in. We should not be contracting out the jobs for people like this. In fact, they should be employed by the city or by the county that these airports are in, and they should make living wages for where they're in, and they should be able to have union jobs working in the public sector. Now, if you want to keep this private, all right, then make sure that all these companies that are subcontracted out are worker cooperatives. Okay, fine, subcontract out. Make it worker cooperative then. See what I mean? That's the issue. It's either going to be they're all public sector employees getting paid a competitive, livable wage, and they're in a union, or if they are contracted out, then those private companies need to be all worker cooperatives, so that the workers who work for that company are also the owners. Because I do not play about my fellow workers being paid crap for people to go to an airport and spend, $400, $500, $600, $700, $800 for a flight, and they're making barely anything. Lord, I'm about to have a conniption up in here if I keep going. It is not right. Since ABM said in a statement Monday that it would take steps to minimize the strike's impact on travelers, all you got to do is just pay them. Anyway, there are avenues for employees to communicate issues, the company said, including internal hotline and a general open door policy for managers at our workplace. That doesn't work. Oh my God. says we keep employee safety and job satisfaction in the forefront of everything we do, and we are committed to addressing concerns swiftly. Then why in the world do they have to strike then if you are doing it correctly? Says Prospect Airport Services said last week that the company recognized the seriousness of the potential for a strike during the busy holiday travel season. It did not respond to requests for comment on Monday. Of course they didn't. Says about 800 workers were affected by the union's push for higher wages, but the exact number who participated in the work stoppage was unclear, said union spokesman Anna Tinsley. Timothy Lowell II, a Prospect wheelchair attendant, said at the rally that he has heard of 2 co-workers having to sleep in their cars or in U-Hauls because they can't afford rent. At the end of his shifts, Lowell said he had to figure out where to spend the night because he doesn't make enough for a deposit on a home. We just want to be able to have everything that's a necessity paid for by the job that hired us to do a great job so that they can make billions. Charlotte airport officials have said that this holiday travel season is expected to be the busiest on record, with an estimated 1.02 million passengers departing the airport between last Thursday and the Monday after Thanksgiving. Airport officials have said in a statement Monday morning that they were monitoring and actively engaged with all partners to ensure terminal operations are not impacted, noting that the striking workers aren't employed by the city's aviation department. The union's North Carolina director, Niecy Brown, said at the rally that many people will travel through the Charlotte airport for Thanksgiving to spend time with family, but that striking workers won't have that same holiday experience because of low wages. Instead, striking employees attending the Strikesgiving lunch Monday, they don't have a table to go to. They don't have a home to go to. I'm not talking about just some random person on the street, even though they deserve healthcare, housing, food, and education too. I'm talking about people that are literally working in the very airports that you and I have to go to when we need to travel. And they can't even afford to get a flight. You work in the airport and you can't even afford to get a flight. So solidarity with the workers, because they deserve way more than even what they're demanding. Because ultimately, it is completely abhorrent that they are asking for a living wage and people go, no, they don't deserve a living wage. The fuck is wrong with you? These are human beings, damn it. Human beings. And you don't want them to get a living wage. Why? The righteous anger that you're feeling right now, put that into mutual aid and put that into building up with your communities. Use that righteous anger. And be kind to these workers. Please, for the love of God, be kind to them. If you're traveling and you go through these airports, if you go through these bus terminals and you see workers, be kind to them. And they even may be kind of ornery, but because they're working during the holidays, whatever worker that you encounter, just be kind. Let them know that you see them and that you care, because they're not being treated right. The management, oftentimes doesn't treat them right. Of course, there are some good managers out there and supervisors out there, but a lot of the times they're not treated right. Or even if they are being treated right by the management, they're not getting paid right. They're not getting the benefits that they should have. They don't have the health care. Because of them not having the pay that they should have and the healthcare that they should have, that means they have inadequate housing, All these things affect them mentally, emotionally, and physically. So some of them are probably dealing with different issues, dealing with different illnesses, dealing with different mental issues, emotional issues, and depression. Last week, me and Savvy talked about the link between poverty and mental health. And so a lot of people who are foundational workers are anxious and depressed, and they're dealing with different types of mental and emotional and physical ailments because of the situations that they're in, because they're dealing with diseases of despair. Some of these people are also disabled. Some of these people are also neurodivergent. And so they're having to deal with that on top of a system that doesn't give a damn about them. And so this is why I think it's so important to talk about and highlight stories like this, and then talk about the solutions that we can do as a people when it comes to providing for our communities, doing mutual aid, building dual power, so that we can save ourselves and them from a system that does not care about them. So keep talking about this. Keep doing what you can for your fellow workers, especially ones that are foundational, like the ones that work in hospitals, the ones that work in airports, the ones that work in fast food joints, the ones that work in as baristas, the ones that work in call centers, the ones that work in retail stores. Put that shopping cart back at the shopping cart return. If you can, if you're not disabled and if you're not ultimately really pressed for time, put the shopping cart back. Please. Don't put that can of corn in a random spot. Put the can of corn back to where you found it in the grocery store. Make their job just a little bit easier. Be careful. Think about, if I was a worker, what I want somebody to do this to me. Let your empathy guide you. And love your fellow human being. Thank you very much. Go ahead and give the stream a like. Appreciate it very much for that. Let's go into the chat and let's check for any super chats, tips, or Rumble rants. I'm checking here on Rumble. We are good. So thank you very much for that. Let's check into the Rockfin chat. I see you, Roger. Excuse me. That workout busted my behind today. Woo. All right. Roger says, hey, what happened to calling them essential workers? Time we seize the means of production. Look, I call them foundational workers because foundational workers sounds better to me. And I'm going to tell you why. Because without them, this country will fall apart. That's why I call what we used to call essential workers, they're foundational workers. Without them, nothing runs. So with that being said, just because you're technically lower on the rung doesn't mean that you should be treated as such. Because when you're building a building, those chief cornerstones are on the bottom and they have everything else on top of them, which means they have tons of pressure on top of it. And they mean the most, and as far as the integrity of a building. But people will sit there and treat them like crap, but they are the reason why everything else is able to run. This is why I say also be kind to them, because you also could be saving a life. Thanks for that, Roger. Appreciate it. All right, so let me get into the general chat as well. And also remember, if you guys would like to ask me a question and you guys want a video response, there's that Q Bouncy. There's the Q Bouncy as well in the description as well. And I'll give you guys a video response as well. But let's continue on in here. Trying to get back to where I stopped at. Kate Mack, thank you so much. Says, hey JB, I was very impressed by your latest mutual aid project. Incredible amount of great aid job. So I was volunteering with Real Orlando. That was their mutual aid event, but we're trying to collaborate with Real Orlando in order to do similar events. We may not be able to do anything as big as they can, but we still are trying to do what we can. So thank you very much, Kate Mack. Appreciate it. Bryce Smith is in the chat saying, what up, y'all? What up, Bryce? Good to see you, bro. Let me see. Amy says, horrible. Expensive as F here, but at least the minimum is $15 an hour. Yeah, but even still, even in a state where you have a minimum of $15 an hour, what is the actual wage that you need to make in order to afford a decent apartment? Right? It's probably going to be between 50 to 75% higher than what you're making now. And so it's still not adequate enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just don't treat you guys as well as people like myself good enough, even though we're the ones who literally keep this economy going. And so it's still not good enough, you know, but I completely understand what you mean. Roger says, hello, fellow comrades. I'm driving, but stopped at the light. But hi to all. Good. You driving right now, Roger. Keep your hands on 10 and 2, bro. Oh, my goodness. Let me see. Yep. Roger says, James said that tarmac is icy. That plane is going nowhere. Absolutely, right? That tarmac needs that plane may need to be de-iced. Yeah. Jacqueline says, are those all names of baby formula? Yeah. So you have Gerber is a brand name. You have Similac, that's also a brand name of baby formula. Beechnut makes baby food. Gerber also makes baby food as well. So those are pretty much, and Gerber is more higher end brands. Similac is a little bit more cheaper, so that's pretty much the different brands. There's probably more expensive brands out there, but those are pretty much the name brands that a lot of people also know. Thank you very much to Bryce. Says, don't forget to hit the like button. And yes, Jacqueline says, in UK supermarkets, the baby formula is one of the items that are locked up to prevent shoplifting. And it's funny. Why do people have to shoplift them? Because they're needed. Why are they needed? Maybe this sounds weird to me. You shouldn't have to pay for baby food. Baby food should not be. There should not be a paywall for baby food. I said what I said. Because food is a right. And who are we going to deny that right for little children? You're going to paywall formula? All right. Crazy, man. Like, we can just pull our resources together and have it free at the point of service. Jesus. My goodness. Lauren says, hello, just getting off the road. Great report, JB. I wholly agree with your very important and compassionate message. Grateful. Thank you very much. Also, Lauren says, and please clean the cart prior to replace it. Yes, clean the cart. If you got any papers, any cups, any bottles, throw it away. And also, don't throw your trash on the street. If you got trash, keep it till you get near a trash can. Jeez Louise, people. I remember one time I had a homeboy. I gave him some gum, and he put the gum in his mouth, and he balled up the wrapper and threw it on the ground. I'm like, and I didn't tell him to pick it up. I picked it up and held it. And then he grabbed it out of my hand and then put it inside his pocket. I'm like, no, you wait till you get to a trash can and throw that out. Oh, crazy, man. I said, yes, I pour foods like meats back into chill. More not for workers' convenience, but consumers' benefit. Yeah. Thank you so very much for that. Yeah, and especially the cold foods. Yeah, like don't just put it back on, on the outside. Like, if you know that you're right there next to a refrigeration area, be good, be kind to your fellow workers. Notori! Good to see you, Notori. Oh, yeah. Amy says, yeah, Jay, wages need to be yoked to cost of living adjustment like Steinware talked about in the campaign. Yes. Absolutely. I fully agree. All right. So, with that being said, let me let you guys know what's going on this week because it is a holiday week. So, of course, the Turkey Day is happening this Thursday. And a lot of people will not be streaming. Depending on what happens with me and my family, I will be, I'm going to try to do some readings so that you guys have that available for Thursday. Because there's no Sabby and JB show on RBN. And so depending on what happens with me, I may just do some readings. So I don't know if I'm going to do the readings live, though. I may just do them pre-recorded. But you guys will have that content there. And then this Saturday, Richard Medhurst will be joining me at, I think, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'll be having on Richard Medhurst this Saturday. So that's going to be a really good conversation. We're going to be talking about what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. We're going to be talking about what's going on within the region as far as, with the genocide in Gaza, what they're doing, what Israel's doing to Lebanon. And I have a few questions I would like to ask him, especially in regards to, potentials that may end up happening. Also, we're on the crux of World War III. And so I want to get his analysis based on that as well. I think that's really going to be an interesting conversation to really get into. So I'm hoping to be able to have that conversation very soon. And then, of course, JB show on RBN on Sunday. So that's going to be a good show that we're going to have. We're just going to do news stories. And then next week, next Tuesday is, what do I have? Look on that. Sorry. What do I got on next Tuesday? Do I have a guest? I'm trying to remember if I have a guest or if I have news stories. I'm sorry. Tuesday, December 3rd. So I'll just be doing news stories Tuesday. And oh, by the way, Roger, I need to start episode 9 if you're still listening. of the master plan. So I think I'm on episode 9 because I did episode 7 and 8 while I was working out earlier today. So I got that in. But yes, so be sure to tune in. And besides that, if you guys have not already, I know RBN, because due to the availability of the guests, they went live at 2 o'clock earlier today. And they had on Chris Hedges and Shama Sawant with Nick. So if you guys haven't got a chance to take a look at that, go ahead after the stream and go ahead and take a look at that. Savvy will be live as usual Tuesday tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, of course, let me make sure. Let's see. Also, just to let you guys know, just a reminder, you know, I can't speak about the legal implications of what's going on with Rome and RBN, but if you guys would like to, you guys can also donate to his GoFundMe. Right now, he is has the money for the lawyer. However, he does need money for his commissary. So if you guys would like to, you guys can donate. You know, it can be one. I think I'm not sure what the minimum is, but if you guys want to shoot $5 or $10 his way, you guys can also do that. I wish I could speak about, you know, the legalities, but I can't. But if you guys would like to, you guys can also donate and help Rome there as well. We are praying for his release soon. So thank you very much to everybody who has donated so far. We're 98% to the goal. So please make sure to do that as well. We want to see Rome out and doing his thing in these streets again. So thank you so very much. I want to make sure I got that in as well. All right, everybody. So thank you very much for tuning in. I want to thank Shaquille Sunflower, aka Akeem, for joining me earlier today. This was a wonderful conversation. And, you know, I'm just very grateful for having, you know, people with differing opinions to be on. I'm going to be reaching out some other people who may differ from me more slightly, just to let you guys know, because of course I don't want my channel to be an echo chamber. I'm going to be having people who I may have some disagreements on with in the future, but that's a part of having a channel. That's a part of, you know, sharing ideas with people as well. So it's going to be interesting as we descend upon 2025. It's going to be a good year, and hopefully I will reach 5,000 subs by that time. So I'm hoping, here's the hoping, cross your fingers, cross your toes, cross your arms, and cross your eyes, you know, you know, the only way we go is up. So yeah, I know I'm goofy as hell, but that's why you're here. And that's why you love me. And that's why I love you. So water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Smoke him if you got him, drink him if you got him. If you ain't got him, then watch something funny, because joy is revolutionary, or read because reading is fundamental. I love you guys for watching. Mwah, forehead kisses. You guys have a great day. Take it away, JB. Thank you so very much for watching my channel, and I deeply appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you wish to support the channel further, so I can keep bringing you content that is educational and informative, you can become a patron on patreon.com/Jaybefaunt. You can find that link in the pinned comment or in the description below. No matter what you give, you'll be supporting independent media and education that helps make the world better. Thank you so much, and you can watch more of my content here. Mwah. Forehead kisses, and have a beautiful day.